I just bought an abandoned and broken PT Cruiser for £300. And in today's video, hopefully we're going to try and salvage and save this PT Cruiser from the scrapyard. So without further ado, let's get on with the video and let me show you around this car and the state which this car is in currently. So let's start with showing you the condition of this abandoned PT Cruiser. You can see it literally has been parked up for a very, very long time. Just looking at the moss growing on the car. It looks like it's actually been under the sea, this car, to be honest with you. It really has been abandoned for a very, very long time. I actually took this car into stock in December 2023. So I've had it for coming on to 7 months now. And there is a reason behind that actually, because I couldn't get this car started. I took it in as a part exchange, managed to drive it back completely fine. And ever since then, I could never get this car started. But it was a very, very silly thing. And we'll talk about that in a second. Look, just looking at the car around here, look at this, all of the state down here. There's so much moss growing, cobwebs underneath the number plate. I think this car was abandoned even before I took it into stock, to be honest with you, because all across here as well, it literally looks like it has been under a river or been thrown into the sea or something like that anyway. But you get an idea of what this car is looking on the outside. Maybe it doesn't even look so bad, you know, with the sun shining down and through the camera, but I can assure you that this is one of the most unclean cars that I've had in stock. That's the exterior. Let's go check the interior out. So, first glance off looking on the interior of the PT Cruiser, I'm going to say it's not too bad. There definitely is a lot of areas we do need to clean, just having a quick scan around the car. But the actual upholstery, it's not that bad. I think getting it deep clean and valeted will make a big, big difference across the seats on the front and the rears. The rest of it just looks like a lot of dust from where the car's been sat around and not been driven. The rubber mats, again, not a big issue for us to clean. They look like original ones as well. As you can see, it says PT Cruiser. Underneath, that is very, very clean, very, very clean. So you can see these rubber mats have obviously been here for a long time, keeping the carpet underneath very, very clean. The rest of the car, you can see it just needs a proper hoover and everything to be just wiped down, especially around the plastics. You can see a lot of maybe, you know, drink spillages, etc., things like that. But front of the car isn't looking too bad at all. We've got a lot of dust around here, plenty of change in the car, which we can use to pay for the car wash. But generally, front isn't looking too bad. Definitely workable with getting it valeted. But let's check the rears as well. So, looking at the rears, definitely looking a bit cleaner than the front seats, I'm going to say. Does need a hoover, but if we are getting the fronts scrubbed, getting it deep clean and valeted, we'll do the same on the rear as well, just to make it look a lot more presentable. But overall, I definitely think underneath all this grime, debris and everything, there is going to be a good car for us. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of the condition of both the interior and the exterior on the PT Cruiser. Right, so let me give you the backstory on how I came across this PT Cruiser, and I'll let you into that beeping noise very, very shortly. So I got this car as a part exchange. I had a Audi A4 Estate, which I sold. A local customer bought the car, and he mentioned to me he's got a PT Cruiser. It's just been sat in his driveway for a little while. It's got a few niggly problems, and he's going to scrap the car. So I said, does it run? Does it drive? He goes, it runs and drives, but it's got problems. I said, that's absolutely fine. So at the time I gave him scrap value for the car, which was £300. And the reason I do that is because scrap value. So if I run into problems with the car, I'm going to scrap it. I haven't really lost out on anything other than a bit of time. But if I can fix the car, there potentially is a profit to be made in those cars. And if you can save something from being scrapped, well, it's always a good thing to keep a car on the road anyway. So that was my intentions when I bought this car. Now that was back in December 2023. Now at the point of filming, we're getting to August 2024. So it's approaching like 8 or 9 months since I've taken this car into stock. And the reason I've had this car for that long is because once I got it back to the office, I couldn't get it started. The ignition would turn on, everything was working, but there was just no crank at all. When you'd go to twist the key, nothing would happen at all, as if the starter motor has just completely died. Now, because of the value of this car, it just got left to the side. And I'd always say, I'll get to it. But work was just busy. I had other things which took priority over this car. And this car would just end up, you know, left to the side and abandoned, which is a bit sad because it's a cool car. But like I say, it had problems, it had issues that needed rectifying. So it wasn't at the top of my list to get this car done straight away. Now, the issues that this car came with were that it wouldn't go over around 2,500 revs. It would just be completely like, it would get to 2,500 revs and it would just be like there was just a cut in power and it wouldn't go anymore. So that was the first issue. That was also linked to an engine management light which was on the car. Now, the second issue with this car is both the ABS and traction light were on the dash, so we had another issue with that as well. And then the last known issue with this car, which is why the car is beeping, is that the airbag light is also on. So those are the three known issues with this car. But just to top it off, by the way, it hasn't got an MOT on this car. The MOT expired about a year ago, so there is a lot that needs doing to this car to get it ready for sale. But as you can see, other than those issues, it is driving very, very nice. But what I will say is I've already rectified some of those issues. The first issue is very, very stupid. So I mentioned that the car wasn't turning on. So I have changed the battery, but prior to the battery being changed, I still managed to get the car started. Now, what it was is I tried absolutely everything. I put my jump pack on the car, I put jump leads on the car, I even put both the jump pack and jump leads from another car to the battery to get this car started, and nothing was happening. The windows were operating at full speed, all the electrics inside were working as they should, so I knew the car was getting a good amount of power, but I just didn't understand why it wasn't turning on. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to be saying, you know, try putting the clutch down or putting your foot on the brake. I did do that and nothing was happening. But this time round, what I done was I absolutely hammered the pedals to the floor, both the clutch and the brake, and the car started. I felt like kicking myself because it was such a small thing. And I know some of you are thinking, didn't you know that when you bought the car? No, because when I got this car as a part exchange, the customer started the car for me as I drove away from his driveway. So I didn't even think. And just putting your foot on a clutch in a more modern car starting, you don't always have to put it right to the floor. But in this car, it really had to go flat to the floor. So that was one issue which we got sorted straight away. Once I got the car running, I noticed that the lights were flickering a little bit, and that was just because the battery was absolutely dead from being, you know, 6 or 7 months just parked up. So I changed the battery, that issue was completely fine. Now, the next issue was the engine management light. So I plugged in my computer to the car and it said that the camshaft position sensor there was an issue. I bought that on eBay around 20 quid and I replaced it myself at home. It is such a simple job. You just remove the airbox, unplug a few tabs, 2 screws I think are holding the camshaft sensor in place, and now the car is driving absolutely fine in terms of, you know, revving over 2,500. And during the time I've been filming, you can see it's a very easy car to drive. So that's 2 issues which I've now had fixed. Now we are on our way to the MOT garage to get this car put through an MOT. We need to see if this car is salvageable and can we get it put through an MOT to give it another year of life. So that is where we are going right now. But whilst the car is there, we'll get them to look into this ABS light as well. It could just be a sensor, but it could be something bigger, but we'll get them to look into that issue there. As well as that, we'll get the airbag light checked out as well. It could just be something as needing a reset because we've had battery issues, but we'll find all of that out once we get over to the MOT garage. So for now, that is the plan of action. Once we've got the car picked up from there, we'll have a little catch up just to see where we are at with this car. But from there, if things go well, we'll drop it off to the valeters, let them work their magic, get everything minted up, get all of that moss and dirt and debris just cleaned up to see what on earth is going to be underneath that paintwork. So that is the plan of action now. We're heading down to the MOT test centre. Fingers crossed we can get this car put through an MOT. But let's see what's going to happen on that front, and I'll catch up with you guys in a couple of days. Okay, let me give you a little walkthrough off the Chrysler since we've just got it picked up from the valeters, and you can see straight away that the paintwork is looking much, much better. I don't know if you remember, there was so much dirt, so much grime, especially around over here. There was layers of dirt, even around the number plate. There was so much moss growing, but it is all looking a lot cleaner than what it was before. The paintwork has got a really nice shine to it. I'm really happy about that because being a red car, the paint does fade a lot quicker if you don't take care of it over the years. But nice to see underneath all of that dirt and all that grime that the paintwork is still in reasonable condition. Even down the passenger side, I don't know if you guys remember, I'll pop it on the screen, but we had so much moss growing all down here. We had layers and layers of moss growing, even down on the side sill. We had so much moss, but that's just a quick overview of the exterior to show you how the car is looking. But let's jump inside. Let me show you the interior and how it's looking after we've got this £50 valet done to the abandoned Chrysler. So straight away, having a look inside into the Chrysler, you can see everything is looking nice and clean, nice and fresh. All the carpets, all the upholstery is in very, very good condition. Of course, it wasn't that bad to begin with. There just was a lot of dirt and a lot of grime accumulating across the car, but getting the valet done has made a big, big difference. You can really see that, especially around the center console. So I'm very, very happy on how this has turned out on getting the front of the car cleaned. Looking into the rears, we can see again it is in very, very good condition now. Just from getting the valet done, it does make a big, big difference. I always bang on about it, but just getting that £50 valet done, not that it's going to be 100%, but you can see the difference it's made to this car just from having a quick little overview of the interior. But hopefully that gives you a nice overview on the interior and the exterior of the abandoned Chrysler to show you where we are ready for sale and the journey to get the car there. So now let's get into some of those numbers and talk about exactly how much this car costs, how much the prep was involved, and how much can we sell this car for. So let's get into those now. Okay, so let me fill you in now on the total cost of this car. I have actually sold it, so I will tell you the sale price and the profit, but let's start with what I've spent on this car. So I took the car on as a part exchange. I paid £300, and then I had to do a few things to the car, as I mentioned. So the camshaft position sensor, that cost £20. Getting the battery changed, that was £60. And these are things which I'd done myself, so there were no labor costs involved. Then I had to get the MOT done, so that cost £40. Whilst it was there, getting looked at some of those issues, so got an ABS sensor replaced, which is a quick thing to do, but that part cost £25. So labor wise, there isn't really anything for that if you know the garage. Then I had to get the car valeted, so that was £40. And the final thing is getting the car advertised, which cost approximately £25. And this car did actually sell very, very quickly. I believe it sold on the first listing of the advert. I advertised it at £1,995 and the car sold for £1,900. So very, very good margin on this car. It gave me a profit of £1,390, which is phenomenal when you think of how much money went into this car. But what I will say is, not every deal goes like this. This was a risky buy because it didn't have an MOT. The car had issues. It wasn't running right. But with that risk comes reward. And in this case, it worked well for me. But do bear in mind that a PT Cruiser is a very niche car. If you look on Auto Trader, there is probably 2 or 3 for sale that aren't convertible. So very limited buyers market, but they do have a bit of a cult following. So you're either going to sell one very, very quickly or you're going to get stuck with one for a very long time. But on that note, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video today, and I hope it's given you a good insight into the full process of getting this car, prepping it, how much it's cost, and getting it sold. So I hope that's come through on today's video, guys. Follow me on all my socials as well, guys, which is at Buysellcars TV. A lot of content on my Instagram, a lot of content on TikTok as well. So hit me up on all those socials. I'll put more details in the description below as well. But as always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much again for watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm going to see you on the next one. Take care, guys.